Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to draft. Draft weekend is upon us for many. If it's not this weekend, then it's next weekend. We'll talk all about it, tell you what you should do, and you'll get a chance to interact with Joe Bartel from RotoWire. The Manchild Show with Boy Green, live on a Friday, starts right now.
Let's go! It's time for the talk to you. 'Cause when it's born, it's always gonna do. And Boy Green is always on the scene. And we're gonna always bring it to the live streaming. So get ready. Get ready, 'cause here they come.
All right, welcome aboard, everybody. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Don't forget, like the video on the way in. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to our channel. There's the link right there. YouTube.com/@MC Show Digital. You want to watch the show on that link, hit the subscribe on that link in order to become part of our growing army. And we appreciate every single one of you who has already popped that button. We are presented today by Northeast Roofing Professionals, NERPCNY.com. Always, kicking some butt and taking no prisoners, so to speak. So we appreciate them, whether it's a roof repair or whether it is a new roof, even a metal roof. Those guys will do it. So go see our friends at the Roofing Professionals, Northeast Roofing Professionals.
NERPCNY.com.
Thank you, Boy Green. All right, and today's video brought to you by our friends at Sharkies, where our draft will be, my friends, a week from
Today.
Whoa.
Yes.
Mind blown. Holy crow, our live draft a week from today at Sharkies. And I did my walkthrough, Boy Green, as you know, earlier this week. So we're ready to go, baby. Let's get it on. We have a wonderful room.
Yes.
And we'll have all the food and the beverages that we want, and what will be another great draft experience for 12 teams in our Champs League. Get ready.
And I just set it up last night. We already got the draft board here. It's in the box. I haven't opened it yet. I'll do that Christmas reveal, I guess, at the draft because I know what's in there. And I got all the material. I got our draft roster sheets, our draft big boards, top 500 for everyone at the draft. So I got all my prep done at the radio station at why not 1:30 a.m. last night. I was still there. So, burning the midnight oil. We are all ready to roll, baby, for the draft next week.
All right. Well, if we really want to get ready to roll, we got to talk to this guy. He gives the best advice out there in the business from RotoWire.com, the one, the only, Mr. Joseph Bartel. Hello, Joe.
Hello, gentlemen. Happy Friday.
Good to be with you, my friend. Good to be talking.
And here it is, Lurch, because you brought it up. Some people are drafting this weekend. Some people are drafting next weekend. This is for our league specifically. But again, I want to reiterate before I even mention what I'm about to mention, Joe Bartel is a service for all. There's no, discrimination, only this league or this league. It's all leagues, baby, all leagues. Even if you're not a part of whatever league I'm about to mention, you can ask your fantasy football questions out there in the universe for Joe Bartel, and we'll get those answered. But specifically for our leagues here, we have the Chumps League draft that is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. And the Triple C draft is on Sunday night at 6 o'clock. And then the following week, we'll have 3 drafts. Well, I'll have more than that. I've got a lot more actually on my sheet here. But we do have our Friday, September 4th draft, which is Champs League next week. And, oh, yeah, baby, MC Show Digital is on that Sunday, the 6th at 6 o'clock. So, yeah, we got a lot of hoopla going on, baby. A lot of hoopla.
Fantasy draft season, right? That feels like it makes sense. And you guys were smart to wait to draft as long as you are. I normally chastise everyone who does this, but with all the injuries that have happened, legal situations too, it's been probably the most obvious, like, if I wait till the last day to draft, I look smart. And I guess kudos to you for that.
Well, let's start with that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. What?
No, I think we're going in the same direction. So please.
Let's start with that Josh Jacobs situation. Obviously, that is making the rounds today. There's even word of a video. Oh, no. Goodness gracious. And so my thought before today, Joe, was even though Jacobs has all this legal stuff, unless they put him on the commissioner's exempt, this thing probably isn't going to get settled until maybe next summer. And so Josh Jacobs really even isn't in play in terms of at least a suspension, it seems, at this point. But with this new news coming out and new charges, how much has that ramped this whole thing up? And is there a much larger concern now about Jacobs actually getting suspended at some point this season?
Yeah, I think it's a twofold question. I'll start out right away. I was not drafting a lot of Josh Jacobs this year, independent of this. I think there was obviously risk prior to it, but I'm convinced the Packers offense will be far more pass heavy this year. Theoretically, their offensive line is not supposed to be very good. So to counteract that, to me, it's not banging my head against the wall and having 2nd and 8s. It's going to be a lot more short passes, getting the ball out of the hands quicker for Jordan Love. So Jacobs was not really on my radar anyhow. Drew Davenport, who I believe is one of the better follows across all the fantasy football industry in terms of legal stuff, Drew Davenport FF, I think, on Twitter, on X, has been one of the guys that I always kind of rely on with this stuff. You mentioned new Chargers. In fact, the Chargers got reduced to what happened this summer. So already that language is incorrect. If you are going off of normal circumstances, I think the Chargers would be a good news, like a thumbs up for Jacobs to play this year. Wisconsin, the state I am in, when it comes to domestic violence, I'm a few degrees or a few classes short of my degree in terms of anything law related. So I want to make sure I clarify. I don't really know much of this stuff, but Wisconsin actually, when it comes to charging from domestic violence, it normally ends up being a misdemeanor. So it got downgraded in that way when you are not actually married to the person that's involved with. So whatever that might be. The big instance with this, or the big issue that's been the hiccup for a lot of people, there is evidently a video that was recorded from the garage where the incident took place. That was in the release of information that came yesterday, but the wording of this is super vague. Now, if this is an area of discovery, again, from a legal terminology, I think if I'm saying it correctly, maybe that video will get out. I think some people are speculating because that would be part of the evidence, it's going to be released momentarily. I don't believe that to be true, but more importantly, this is scheduled for November, and then theoretically, any good lawyer could push this back until after the regular season is over. Again, let's come January, February. So to me, I don't think Jacobs plays anyway. Now, we had that report 2 days ago. That was Underdog NFL's Twitter ends up kind of doing a bad like headline tweet saying Gutekunst, general manager of the Packers, is preparing for Jacobs to be suspended. No, if you actually watch the quote and interview, it was that they're preparing for every instance in the event that does happen. They already have safeguards set, but it was not like they assume that will happen. So I'm operating as if Jacobs is not going to be suspended this year, that he'll be a part of the Packers team, and come next year, he'll be likely facing some sort of suspension. Well, his contract really set to be cut anyway by the Packers next year. So I guess that would be ideal for their organization. I'm, again, not drafting Jacobs because I don't think he makes sense on the football field. And from a fantasy perspective, other guys in that range, Kyron Williams, Boy Green's, Breece Hall, and his injured groin, for example, there's a number of other running backs I'd rather have at the price tags that they are at than Jacobs. So independent of this legal situation, I'm not drafting Jacobs. However, people are acting as if he's going to be suspended this year, and I don't know if that's the case. If he is, real quick, if he is, everyone's pushing Marshawn Lloyd as the guy to draft. Don't do that. You guys are all going to be really stupid and really frustrated if you're drafting Lloyd as if he's going to be the fill-in savior for this. If Jacobs misses time, the Packers will use a complement backfield, which means they'll have Marshawn Lloyd and Chris Brooks. Pierre Strong has been coming on this preseason as well, too. I think he makes the active roster. And I wouldn't be shocked if they trade for a James Conner or another cast-off running back towards the I guess this is the final week of the preseason, so cut-down roster is coming too. Marshawn Lloyd is not the guy. And if he ends up being drafted in like the 6th or 7th round because you're assuming Jacobs will be suspended, you're going to have egg on your face, I think, come regular season.
So you don't believe that to make sure I clarify and make this abundantly clear for the fans that are listening in, because people love doing that. If some situation, whether legal or not, obviously very serious stuff here for Josh Jacobs, but regardless of the situation, everyone goes, well, who's the next guy? Because that guy can take over the bulk of whatever. You're saying that player doesn't exist. There's not a fantasy viable guy beyond Josh Jacobs if for some reason he was impeded in any way.
If Marshawn Lloyd is being viewed by the person drafting him as the guy for that Packers offense in the case Jacobs missed time, that's a mistake. If you're drafting Jacobs, let's just say round 10 or 11 to be a flex play, a fill-in randomly, to understand that if he gets more than 12 touches in a game, that's awesome, then you're in the right. Like that's, I totally understand philosophy, but the fantasy universe in social media and other places is going completely off the rails as assuming what Marshawn Lloyd will be for this offense. And I'm telling you guys right now, as a staunch Packer fan, I'm wearing the hat today, not for this reason, but I bleed green and gold. It is a mistake if you believe Marshawn Lloyd is going to be worth a 7th or 8th round price tag in the event Jacobs gets suspended. You are going to be hurt if that logic applies.
Joe, talk to us a little bit about the Colts wide receiver situation. Some news coming out on Alec Pierce. And how do you think that's all going to stack up there with Daniel Jones back under center here?
Yeah, so Alec Pierce was activated off the PUP list yesterday. Got that massive contract extension this past off season. Some said an overpay for a guy that barely made over 1,000 receiving yards, never has had 50 yards or 50 or more receptions in a season, ends up getting paid 30 plus million a year. I think people were drafting Alec Pierce in the summer way too early, assuming the contract would mean he's going to be a 100 reception guy because, man, the Colts paid him that way. Well, that was also stupid. That was never going to happen. Now the price tag is one a little bit the other way where, man, Alec Pierce has been 2 weeks out. He hasn't been playing at all or practicing with this kind of mysterious lower body injury. I'm worried 2 days ago, there was video of Alec Pierce walking around kind of with like a little bit of a limp as well, too. Mm-hmm. That felt stupid to me in the other way. And now Alec Pierce, who is supposed to be this guaranteed number one target for the Colts because they paid him this astronomical amount of money, is now wide receiver 3 behind Josh Downs and Keenan Allen. And then there's Tyler Warren and Jonathan Taylor. I just disagree with that sentiment. If you can get Alec Pierce today as a wide receiver 4 on your team, I think that'll end up being a beneficiary. Maybe he's not quite ready week 1. Maybe there is a bit of let's get the stamina and reps underneath him as the beginning of the season ends up happening. But in your half point in standard formats, this is a guy that was an explosive player, unlike most others in the NFL. And even if his target rate ends up going a little bit higher and therefore the yards per target goes a little bit lower because he led the league in that last year, again, under 50 receptions, over 1,000 receiving yards, that's for the betterment from a fantasy perspective. And I think Pierce getting more involved in the offense is a natural byproduct of getting that contract extension, not 100 receptions, because nobody's doing that in that Colts offense. That's just stupid. But if he's going to get more like 60 to 70 to 75, what was like a wide receiver 35 last year, even with the receiving yards that he had, could be more like wide receiver 30 or 25. And you're getting him at a massive discount because everyone just assumes he's hurt. When again, he got activated off the PUP list yesterday and is totally fine that the Colts are prepping for him to be ready for week 1. So I love Pierce as wide receiver 4 or 5. I like a lot of guys in that range. Jordan Addison, Matthew Golden. For some reason on ESPN platforms, Chris Godwin's been in that ADP range. And that's, again, stupid. I guess that's the word of phrase for today. But I think that Pierce ends up being one of those guys that'll happily draft if you're getting an injury discount on them over the next 2 weeks.
I love spicy Joe Bartel here. This is great. I don't this version. He's like, this is stupid. This is stupid. I like it. I love the flavor that's on this sandwich, Joe Bartel. Let me ask you that theme because people have a lot of different perspectives on it. When players get paid, I've heard the take of like, oh, look, the team loves him. He paid him. So that means boom. Whatever his stock was here, it's pow now because they got to get their bang for their buck. They got to like overload whoever that player is. I've heard the other side, right? A guy's vying for a contract, so he's more motivated than ever. Mm-hmm. So that can lead to blah. How does contracts, both if they just got paid and secured the bag versus guys that are on the fence attempting to secure a bag, how does that or does that not at all affect fantasy impact?
Let's play it out in 2 circumstances because I want, if people are going to do this, let's be consistent with the way we're doing it. It never is because there's always an ideology or something else they're pushing, an agenda that somebody has. This past off season, Kenny Gainwell signed with the Buccaneers for 2 years, $12 million. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that follow the running back market. They're like, man, the Buccaneers are invested in Kenny Gainwell being a thing over Bucky Irving, over they let Rachaad White go, but over Sean Tucker as well because they paid him, right? To follow the money. That's the instance you'll hear all the time. Yes. Okay, those people that believe that Kenny Gainwell is going to be a fantasy factor this year over Jalen Warren or over Rico Dowdle or over Jordan Mason, kind of all in that sort of range, never, ever, ever talk about Chris Rodriguez getting 2 for $12 million with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And instead, those same people are like, man, Bashal Tutin looks so great. He's going to be the pass catcher and the runner, and Bashal Tutin's the best thing since sliced bread. It's like, okay, follow the money, right? You thought Kenny Gainwell was going to be this fantasy factor at 2 years, $12 million for the Buccaneers, but Rodriguez, who joins his college coach, Liam Cohn from Kentucky, to be the bruiser running back, and by the way, been getting some receiving snaps during practice recently. I like nobody loves Chris Rodriguez in that same way. So I always get annoyed with, I think the running back market's so different when basically everyone in that range this past off season all got similar contracts. I think that's far more of the negotiating leverage, I was going to say the lawyers, that the agents had. And I think the way that teams are viewing these guys kind of independently, not I like Kenny Gainwell significantly more, or not I like Chris Rodriguez significantly more. Conversely, George Pickens, right, the stud receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, who a lot of people believe will score more fantasy points than CeeDee Lamb, he takes the franchise tag for Dallas, and with the expectation he's going to get a massive contract extension during the season or at the end of the year, and he's playing for the bag. I don't know if I really want to rely on a George Pickens, who I think we can call him marsupial or like a little bit like we're worried about his mindset as is. I don't want to bet on what a motivated George Pickens looks like because I don't want to get in the mind of him anyhow. So like there's that sort of side of things too. Tucker Kraft, my guy this year, one of my that I'm flag planting on, he could theoretically get paid or he should be getting paid in the coming days, or at least during the season for the Packers as well too. He might be motivated to do better this season. I've normally ignored that part of things when we're talking about league record contracts, again, at receiver, at tight end, because those guys are going to get paid close to that anyway. If they're trying to get what would be maybe an $8 million contract this offseason, and instead they play well $16 million, that's a little bit different. Those circumstances are so hard to identify as well. So I try to fade the noise with that, and I ask people to be consistent when you're talking about follow the money, not just follow the people that you like, which is always the case with this.
Joe, would you take a flyer on, talking about those running backs again for a minute, would you take a flyer on a guy like a Sean Tucker, or you mentioned James Conner, who's injured? Because the speculation is that Tucker might not even make the roster, I've been hearing recently, yep. So could he land somewhere else where he has a viable spot? Do you take a swing on someone like, I'm talking really late in the draft, I'm talking last couple of rounds, I'm just looking for somebody that could turn into something that's nothing right now. James Conner could be traded. A lot of rumors out there about that when he gets healthy, that there could be somebody who would need him and they'd give up something, an asset for a guy like that, since he's been a pretty good player. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I did pretty well last year in best ball, as we talked about that. I finished 113 in the DraftKings flagship one, ended up winning $7,500. I put it a little bit, reinvested that back into doing that again this year. And one of my popular late round picks has been James Conner, the other one, Chris Bell. I would say both of those are trending up in the right direction right now. Chris Bell, the third round rookie for the Dolphins, was tore his ACL, I think, back in December. He was active the pup list, looking pretty good in the early parts of training camp for the Dolphins. Maybe ends up being a factor at some point, but I like Chris Bell as sort of a long shot. But to your point, I am totally invested in the idea that James Conner will not be an Arizona Cardinal by the start of the regular season. Now, it got a little bit more hairy after they waived via injury Trey Benson. He was not claimed by anybody else, now back in the injured reserve roster. So Trey Benson done for the season already. The event that Jeremiah Love, who has a high ankle sprain already, Tyler Algier, and James Conner, those three probably would help a Cardinals offense. And maybe you want to have James Conner be like a reinforcement factor for Jeremiah Love, build him up as a leadership role. I understand that. If you're the Cardinals, who I believe for the first 13 weeks of the regular season are not favored in any single game, getting any asset, even if it ends up being a 6th round pick for a veteran running back that you had to renegotiate his contract to keep him on the roster to start this season, I think is a win. That's the way I would play things. Now, dumb organizations do dumb things. Cardinals certainly among that group over the past half decade, if not longer. Maybe they think James Conner is valuable otherwise outside of on the football field, but I would rather have the asset. And there are a number of teams, whether it be my Packers or the Raiders with Ashton Genty and his injury right now, Mike Washington, basically the only guy on that roster. There are a number of the teams that could use a James Conner to help elevate their roster in different ways. So I think he is going to get traded. I would be shocked if he is on the Cardinals roster, at least by the trade deadline. And I think Sean Tucker probably is another good spot as well, too. If you have late round picks, I would rather invest it in those guys than Tank Bigsby, who I don't think is very good anyway. But if Saquon Barkley were to get hurt, maybe profiles a little bit more. Or like Jaden Blue. Like I've been drafting a little bit of Jaden Blue, but he ends up being a bit more expensive if Javonte Williams gets hurt. Why not go ahead and really get a boomer bust asset on one of those last picks? Because if they go to the right circumstance, they're not in currently, man, that could be a major windfall.
By the way, an observation here. My father's watching the show. He says, your boys hats, Giants, Jets, Packers. Is this a fantasy football inside show or an intervention between all of us here ahead of the season?
Probably an intervention.
I mean, for the two New York teams who are going to stink this year, yeah, probably should intervene. But I mean, this is the historic Green Bay Packers franchise, which has had one of the longest running playoff standards over the past 2 decades. I don't know if I need an intervention to support one of the best franchises in all the NFL. You guys and your New York teams, maybe I understand trying to find a different spot for you. I get that.
Thanks, Bob.
The New York Football Giants, my friend. Football Giants. Joe, let's talk tight end tiers. In years past, if we just go back a few years, it was always the Travis Kelce show in the early rounds, and then we'll figure out who else it is. Obviously, that doesn't exist anymore. But now we have some interesting specimens here. Brock Bowers, of course. Trey McBride playing on a bad team. how have you stacked up the tight ends this year, and where do you, in your draft so far, or in your thought process, do you think it's time to jump into the pool for a tight end?
Yeah, it's like probably the most important conversation that you as the person drafting needs to have an answer for before the start of the draft.
Yeah.
So Brock Bowers typically goes, let's say, top 24 picks, so the first 2 rounds. Trey McBride somewhere in the range of top 32 picks, so midway through the 3rd round, McBride probably should be off the board. That's full point PPR, half point PPR. I think it's a little bit different if you're playing in like tight end premium formats where it's 1.5 per reception. Maybe there's some of those out there listing that do that as well too. But Bowers, McBride, both easily top 32 picks. You also have Colston Loveland in that mix, which very conventionally is a 3rd or 4th round guy. Let's just say top 45. So 3 tight ends in the top 45 picks is a really tricky dynamic. I am not going to be one to tell you that Brock Bowers, McBride, or Loveland are bad players or not worth that price tag at all. That's not what I would choose to do. But the way I tackle this argument, and either you want to use the RotoWire mock draft software out there, you want to go on Sleeper or ESPN as well too. I don't care how you do it. I want you guys, before the draft happens, take a Bowers or McBride where their ADP ends up lying, or even just sim the draft itself. Take them early on and see what running backs or receivers are available to you when you take Tyler Warren in round 6, or Tucker Kraft in round 8, or my guy this year, Isaiah Likely, in round 11. Look at the running backs or receivers that are there and tell me with a straight face that you would rather have the Bowers and round 11 roster of running back or receiver, or Isaiah Likely, who I think could be tight end 7 or 8 this year, and then Saquon Barkley, or again, Kyron Williams, or if you want to do AJ Brown or Drake London. And it's not a fair comparison per se, because if you take tight end early, you're probably going heavy at running back and receiver early on in the draft. But there really is a massive dichotomy as to what it looks like with Bowers, McBride, and then these guys later on. And whenever I do that exercise, it's like, yeah, I'll just wait at tight end. Now, it helps that I like a lot of guys that are a little bit later on. Again, I mentioned Tucker Kraft, again, on ESPN formats. I think he's picked 98. That's ridiculous to me. Tucker Kraft should be way higher. I like Tyler Warren this year. I like Isaiah Likely. Even Chigakonku, who has not been drafted. I think I wrote the waiver wire article a couple days ago. He was not rostered in 80% of ESPN leagues. I think Chigakonku could be actually low-end tight end 1 this year, and you could literally get him for free. Like, when I have comfort in those guys, it makes it a little bit easier not to draft Bowers, McBride. Again, I don't think they're bad players or Colston Loveland, but I like my roster so much more when I don't invest early in tight end.
That also is, yeah, fair. I was just resetting. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Joe, we just, we've talked for years about quarterback. It feels like this year there's only one supreme being at quarterback. Maybe you disagree with that. Josh Allen is the guy, of course, I'm talking about. And then it seems like this year, more than any year, it's just like you could just wait forever and still get a really nice buffet of quarterbacks. I'm not usually one that's all that patient in quarterback. I think I probably will be this year, in all honesty. I mean, I just see such a better path to waiting and then choosing between a bunch of guys that I could totally live with.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same philosophy that applies for tight end. We would call that the onesie position. So 1 starting quarterback, 1 starting tight end. I think it's the same sort of process for tight end that is quarterback. I disagree. I think there are 2 superhumans. I will draft Lamar Jackson high if he ends up being at a certain value point. Josh Allen obviously being the other one as well too. But if I don't get either one of those, and I will typically never draft Josh Allen where his current ADP is, then I will wait. And it's not even just like I'll wait to draft quarterback 12. Like, again, in a 12-team league, theoretically, this principle would be I'll draft the 12th quarterback, so I'll be the very last one to take one. I don't mind if you guys draft a few backup quarterbacks as well too before I get my guy. Whether it be Jared Goff, who's been, I think, quarterback 8 or higher in each of the last 3 years, or Kyler Murray from a rushing perspective, I think should do well for the Vikings. My guy, Jordan Love, I expect to be passing a lot more. Baker Mayfield could be this equation. Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford last year ended up being quarterback 1s for a lot of people, and they weren't drafted. I vehemently believe that you could and should be the last one to draft a tight end, and your roster will infinitely look better. In that scenario, you can always draft 2. I will confidently draft a Kyler Murray and Jordan Love, or Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield in that scenario, because I know I'm going to get a quarterback 1 out of that duo, no matter who it ends up being. But I don't think you have to. Now, there are exceptions. If Joe Burrow, who I think has one of the easier, Joe Burrow is this year's Drake May. That's a game that we always play in fantasy. Who's this year's Jackson Smith-Njigba, for example. Joe Burrow, if healthy, is this year's Drake May in terms of a comically easy schedule and the pass catchers around him. I believe Joe Burrow would be an exception if he ends up falling to like round 6 or 7. I don't mind Jalen Hurts to a certain extent if he falls a little bit further, but that really is it. I will never be a guy that's drafting quarterback high unless the circumstances fall my way, because I feel so good about the guys later on that you can get basically for free.
All right, let's go to a question here. I see Bubble Badshaw says, who should I take number 9 overall in full point PPR? But he also says, I'm not talking about any of our leagues we're in together, Joe, so be nice. Yeah.
I would love if St. Brown falls to you. That would be awesome. It never does. At this point now, St. Brown's been kind of the safe answer for if you have pick 5. So normally it's pick 4 is Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase number 3. St. Brown's the safe answer over Jonathan Taylor, over James Cook, over Christian McCaffrey. I think at this point, you'll often see Jonathan Taylor fall to you at 9. I'm okay with that. I still am not taking Christian McCaffrey there because of the tightness thing that may or may not be planned. I just don't want to deal with it whatsoever. Like last week would have been Ashton Genty. I would have loved Ashton Genty to be at pick 9. Now with that sprained ankle, that may be low, may be high. I have no idea how we're supposed to view that. I'm just out on him. So I would rather go Jonathan Taylor over James Cook, but I think I'd realistically have either one of them. And frankly, I don't mind still taking Amari Hampton as a late first round selection. That has not always been the answer. The way I'd rank it is probably one of those running backs and then Justin Jefferson, but it really is independent of what you want to do. If you are somebody that wants to have 2 running backs right away, you will not be able to have that build unless you take one right off the rip in the first round. I personally believe in Justin Jefferson benefiting from Kyler Murray and the Kevin O'Connell offense, and I'll take that and then get whatever running back that comes back, whether it be Chase Brown or Von Achane or Amari Hampton. But it is a risk, because if you don't feel like you can get one of those running backs coming back, I don't like going receiver, and conventionally Drake London, AJ Brown in that spot. So you have to balance that a little bit. To me, it's Justin Jefferson at number 9 and then running back. But if you get worried about what that would look like, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, and then the running back afterwards, that's fine too.
Joe, let me jump over to this question. Jamie, the FedEx Guy Hall of Fame member, says Joe Bartel's perfect draft strategy for the 12-13. So he's in the 12 hole, obviously, this year is blank. I know we don't know how the first 11 picks are going to go, but who strategically do you like in that 12-13 turn?
Ideally, it's Justin Jefferson and then Amari Hampton. That doesn't always happen, though. And then I would probably go Chase Brown and Amari Hampton, with the idea being at the 1-2 turn, the running backs that come back to you, you're really rolling the dice if Kyren Williams can fall, or you're really hoping that a lot of these platforms, David Montgomery, who I like a lot, will go or is around that ADP range. And I just don't want to risk it. So I'll go running back. The ideal one's Justin Jefferson if he falls, and then either Amari Hampton or Chase Brown. But realistically, Chase Brown, Amari Hampton, that's the right answer and the safest one if you're trying to project what happens in the 3-4 turn.
And Chase expands this discussion a little bit. Let me just jump over to this one, BG, before you jump in. I have a draft tonight picking 12. Do you guys think it would be a bad move to start double RB? I think you've kind of just answered that. And also take Loveland at the 3-4 turn in a PPR league. The only thing I would say, Joe, is like, I think one of the things to avoid in drafts, this is just my advice, I'd love to know if you agree, is when you start targeting specific players into a draft, then what happens if you don't get them? And like you could say, I love Loveland and I'd love to get him in that spot, but it may not be Loveland because someone else just might want him earlier.
Takes him way higher, right? Sure.
Yeah, and like Loveland's ADP would be right around that spot. It would probably be a bit of a reach if he ends up going a few picks after Trey McBride. But you'll see the fantasy community kind of push Loveland a lot. And again, I just go back to this. Whoever answered this question or asked this question has definitely done mock drafts. Take Loveland and then tell me if you're not kicking yourself if you couldn't have Tyler Warren or Tucker Kraft the round afterwards, or if you wait to take Isaiah Likely a little bit later on. Because like that is the ADP range where Loveland ends up going. And I just disagree with the idea that I have to have Loveland. I don't think he's consequentially better than a lot of these guys. Maybe it's the hat that I'm wearing. I really don't think I'm I'm down on the Bears offense altogether. I'm certainly not down on Loveland as a prospect. I had Loveland over Tyler Warren, which was not conventional last year before those guys got drafted. So I just don't want to have tight end early. I'd much rather go the receivers. If you get Devonta Smith and Emeka Buka that fall at that spot, that's the ideal build. If you go a double running back and then Emeka Buka and Devonta Smith, gosh, sign me up for that every time. Or if Rashee Rice falls there, Malik Neighbors sometimes Woods earlier. Now I think not so much now. Like I would rather go double running back than double receiver, not tight end. That's the part that I have an issue with.
All right, a couple other fan questions here. Let's go to Danger Zone here. He says, is Bayshall Tootin okay as an RB3 on my team, 12-team half-point PPR? I haven't seen too much of him, so your insight would be appreciated. Would be my flex and could also be using Carnell Tate or Blake Corum.
Yeah, the half-point PPR is the hard part. There are Tootin supporters who are obnoxious, and I don't like those people. I think realistically, if everyone's like, hey, Bashal Tootin will be a really good value to an offense that we project to be one of the better ones this year, I have no problem saying that. It's the Tootin supporters that completely reject the idea that Chris Rodriguez will be a factor that I really take issue with. If you kind of project how the workload goes, Bashal Tootin probably gets close to 180 to 200 carries, maybe ends up getting 30, 40 receptions. In half-point PPR, that's not ideal. You want him to be more like a 50 to 60 catch guy, if not a little bit more. And the people that are really high on Tootin just assume that will be the case because Travis Etienne from last year just did that. I don't think Tootin is that good, nor do I think the Jaguars want him to be used in that way. I think Chris Rodriguez could have a bigger factor in that way. As a third running back, no problem whatsoever. I like Blake Corum a lot this year. And if you say Tootin and Corum are running back 3 and 4, great. No issue with that build whatsoever. I have some concern about Colonel Tate being that spot. He has not looked good in training camp whatsoever. And I liked Tate a lot entering this process. So I'm a little bit worried about that. But the running backs of Tootin and Corum are running back 3 and 4, good place to be.
And Danger follows that up with Hampton or Judkins better year. Interesting comparison. I would hope Hampton based on where he's going.
right.
But
I was going to say,
are you a Quinshawn Judkins fan?
Yeah, I was going to say both. Could we have both? Like, obviously, Quinshawn Judkins, Damarian Hampton. Hampton right now is being drafted as a top 20 player. Judkins is a top 60 player. You're right. Hampton definitely should be the one that has a better year based on ADP, but I really love Judkins. And I think he's going to end up being, along with David Montgomery, probably my most rostered running backs this season. And both can get it, let's just say, running back 24 through 26 range. Like, there will be people that take Tootin over Judkins. There'll be people that take Jalen Warren in full point PPR over Judkins. And I think that's a complete mistake. You'll see Jonathan Brooks right now go ahead of Quinshawn Judkins. And yes, Brown's offense might not be very good. I'm not arguing they won't be. And maybe he'll split time with Dylan Sampson or whatever. To me, Judkins is like that early years versions of Nick Chubb, where no matter how bad the Browns offense was, he still produced. If you think about Judkins in that lens, yes, he easily is a running back too. So I would much rather have Amari and Hampton if both were equal, but they're not. Judkins ended up going about 4 rounds later. So my answer is both. Give me both of them. I feel great about my builds.
Let's go with another one here. It's Badshaw. And I think this is always a great thing to highlight every year, Joe. So Badshaw says, the thing is in my league, he was talking to Manchild, is if someone takes a quarterback, then everyone jumps on quarterback. There's a run. In the past, I like to wait on quarterback. What is your advice? Because there's a difference between home leagues with your buddies and an expert league for $1 million, like in terms of how people perceive things. So what's your advice to people when a run happens? It happens in every draft. There's the one guy in the live fan. I can already predict it. Here's the crystal ball. Someone's going to go up in the 7th round. Texans defense. And we're like, what the? And that either everyone starts going, wait, a defense went. That means we need to get our defense. What the heck is happening? Or everyone goes, yeah, that's an idiot. All right, that's the only defense going in the next 4 or 5 rounds here. We're all gonna just ignore that just happened and just keep rolling. What's the advice when runs start happening in your leagues?
Yeah, it's the latter. And I wanted to address the first part that you mentioned with this. I really rage against this. I know if you guys have listened to me on SiriusXM, I'll say it as well too. Doing those expert mock drafts or expert leagues and they'll be on SiriusXM's social account, things like that. It's great, but I really get annoyed that when we, the experts, take quarterbacks, it's not reflective of what happens in friends and family leagues. Like, I will absolutely acknowledge Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson will be third or round 2, 3, 4 picks. I get that entirely. What I'd tell you, Badshaw, and anybody else that's doing this right now, if there's a quarterback run, then you can just laugh at your other 11 stupid league mates and walk away with the money. That will be Brock Purdy in round 10, or again, Jordan Love in round 14, or Kyler Murray. Like, I resist the idea that if there's a quarterback run, you have to be a part of that. Now, if you see like there are 3 members in your league that are all doing your philosophy, which would mean that Dak Prescott or Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence ends up sliding far further, there's a point where I'm fine jumping on those guys because I do think they're a tier above Brock Purdy, Matthew Stafford, the guys that we mentioned before. But if you feel like you need to be a part of the all dumb conglomerate of people that take quarterbacks too early, just think about our conversation right now. Think about me calling you stupid, and then just don't do it. Because it's that simple. You don't have to be a part of doing something dumb when everyone else in your league members. Like we could do any sort of analogy or adverb you want to, but like you don't have to be a part of that crew when everyone else does that. There will be value if 11 other league members take quarterbacks far too early, and that comes with running backs or receivers that you are listening to this right now, following along and aware of the ADPs and doing mock drafts. You're going to be better for it when you're not taking those quarterbacks early.
Joe, I'm getting flashbacks to the 90s, the Dare Lion. You don't have to do drugs. You don't have to do them just because everyone else is doing them.
Exactly.
They blew the VHS and popped it in. Hey, kids, look at these drugs. You don't want these. So, Joe, thank you for that.
Yeah, drugs are cool. Drafting quarterbacks early or not.
Fair enough. That's what I got out of this.
Always appreciate the advice. Plug for RotoWire or anything that you're up to before you go.
Yeah, well, reminder, code JIM, JIM, gets 35% off. Of course, we have that set up for you guys right now.
Baby.
Yeah, there you go. Jim, 35% off. We have 2 weeks yet until fantasy draft season is done. Really important if you guys are getting involved in that. The mock draft tools, either on the RotoWire Fantasy Football app, please download that if you get a chance to as well, are really useful. We have custom ranking set. If you want to make your cheat sheets that aren't Boy Green's dumb ones that end up hurting you, and he has all the cool smart ones, do that with the RotoWire tool. You can actually print them out and cross them off as well too when you're at your live drafts as well. So you don't have to rely on Boy Green cheating you out of ADPs that are wrong from 3 months ago. So I would encourage you to use the RotoWire tool for that as well too. Again, code JIM, JIM35 gets you 35% off a RotoWire subscription today.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Always appreciate it. Talk to you next week.
All right.
By the way, before you go, any decision made on your number 1 overall pick in the digital league?
Wouldn't you like to know number 2 overall?
Wouldn't
guy?
he?
Wouldn't
he?
know?
You know, I mean, we can make a deal. You reveal 1, and then I'll reveal 2, and then really,
I'm not going to make any deals about that pick, but
top.
I might talk to somebody else on this phone call about the deal itself too. We'll have to see. I don't know if I have anything set for number 1, but we can have a conversation off air about what a deal would actually look like with that pick.
Well, I remember last year I could have taken Chris Olave in front of you. I knew you loved him, and I let him go by. You just remember that, Joe Bartel.
What a nice guy.
Remember that.
He's got to return the favor.
That was nice. You could have been that good. I should have taken Olave. Holy crap!
You should have. Yes, you should have.
I might be taking him this year at a much higher ADP for crying out loud. Thank you, Joseph. Always good to talk to you, buddy.
All right, guys. See ya.
All right, there he goes. Joe Bartel giving us some love, all things fantasy football. We'll bounce out for a quick break here. We'll come back. Boy Green and I will just unpack a little bit of Bartel. If you want to get in a couple other comments or ask advice from me or Boy Green, we'll be here just for a couple more minutes before we close it down here on a Friday. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital, presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals, brought to you by our friends at Sharkies.
If you plan on throwing a party, whether it's a wedding, clam bake, birthday party, graduation party, a party, company picnic, oh, and did I mention clam bake? Sharkies is your party headquarters with 3 indoor options and a plethora of outdoor options as well. All in a park-like setting with a big stage and over 7,000 square feet of covered pavilion. So rain or shine, we've got you covered. Book your next party now. Go to SharkiesBanquets.com. Sharkies in Liverpool, making parties historic every single year.
Finding the right local roofing company can be tricky. You don't want to hire the wrong roofers, or you could end up spending a fortune on repairs. The pros at Northeast Roofing Professionals can ensure your home is protected by a strong and sturdy roof. Locally owned and operated, over 30 years experience, free estimates, and competitively priced. Don't settle for an inexperienced roofing contractor. Turn to Northeast Roofing Professionals. Discounts for military and first responders. Reach out and let them put a sturdy roof over your head. NERPCNY.com. NERPCNY.com.
All right, we're back talking all things fantasy football. Just wrapped up our segment with Joe Bartel. We do this every Friday live. You want to jump in the comments, you can super chat and super sticker your way in too if you want to get to the top of the pile and ask Joe questions about your fantasy league. Boy Green and I usually hang around for just a couple minutes afterwards to debunk or to answer any questions that were in the comments. You know, Danger was talking about that Judkins, Omari, and Hampton thing, and he threw a follow-up comment here that I'll address. I don't think Joe needed to address this, but we can address it, Boy Green. And he was saying here, both the second-year guys, Judkins 1,000 total yards and 7 TDs last year. So Judkins had a very, very good year. But the other part of that, and the reason I think that Omari and Hampton obviously is going earlier in drafts, is they had that devastating injured offensive line last year. And everybody knows Jim Harbaugh loves to run the football, and he loves to establish that very, very physical game, just like his brother, frankly.
And Hampton was hurt too as well, obviously.
And Hampton got a little dinged up as well. The thought here is behind a healthier offensive line, second year in the league, and hopefully injury-free year for Omari and Hampton, that theoretically on that team, which is definitely a better equipped team from top to bottom than certainly the Cleveland Browns are, that he should have a better season, which is why he's going early. Now, we don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball, including Joe Bartel. Maybe Judkins does end up having a better year than Omari and Hampton, but I wouldn't bet on it, and I wouldn't draft it that way. So that's my thoughts on that one, just to kind of wrap up that conversation. Go ahead, BJ.
Yeah, I mean, it's our tailgate this year, Jets-Browns, beautiful week 5. The quarterback situation is a disaster. Deshaun Watson got named the starter. We'll see what that looks like. Is there any of that juice from 5 years ago? That's a long time ago. I don't believe. And the rest of their offense looks like crap. I like Quinshon Judkins in a vacuum. I like him as a player, but I just don't like the situation he's in. If I'm another team, I am daring Deshaun Watson to beat me, and I'm piling the box and forcing it on Judkins. Now, Judkins, to the point of the statistics, he was able to thrive in very terrible circumstances last year. Do you think he could do it again where he gets more of his feet under him? So that's certainly possible. But yes, we'll see how much stock I end up. I have not done a single draft so far this year. I've done mock drafts, but I haven't pulled the trigger on any of them. We have I got a mock draft tomorrow night, Sunday night, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Good Lord. I guess I'm in 7 leagues, 6 leagues, however many leagues I'm in. So it all
mock drafts. You schedule them?
No. I'm saying I've done mock drafts. I haven't done any drafts yet. I'm saying I actually have drafts tomorrow, Sunday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday of next week. You actually can also schedule mock drafts, by the way, on the Yahoo app. But I don't know why you would ever do that. I just feel like if I have time, I'm just going to run and do it immediately in that moment and calculate it to the settings. But no, I don't know how much shares is the word I'm going to have in Omari and Hampton this year. I'm not sure. We'll see sort of how drafts flow. You know, I'm open to everything and attached to nothing. So it sort of depends.
Well, you're later in the round, so you're definitely going to have a swing at him if you want him, first or maybe even early second round. Because that tends to be the sweet spot. For someone that loves him, they might pick him somewhere in the first round towards the bottom, I would think, because there are some primo players that are a little bit more proven. And then and some people, if you got a few people in the league at the bottom that don't like him, all of a sudden he'll swing back up to you in the second round. And if you wanted him in that situation, you could probably get him. I don't see a guy like that getting past the second round, that's for sure. Probably not even mid-second round that he'd probably be off the board. But well, always find people that are in love with certain players, and all of a sudden they just go off the board, and you're like, "What was that? I didn't expect that." That's why you can plan a strategy, but it's a bad idea to plan players. Sure, I highlight players that I love, right? And I literally read out players that I'm not drafting them no matter what, almost, maybe if they drop 5 rounds, maybe I would consider it or something, but I'm not drafting them anywhere near their ADP because I just don't love the player or the situation or whatever. But even though I mark guys, there's still guys I'll take that are unmarked if it's the right situation or a guy falls to you.
Everybody's got a price.
Willing to move and flex. Go in with the strategy, but don't go in with a list of players and I'm trying to get these guys, because you're going to come out of most drafts very disappointed. Sometimes you might get lucky, but other times you're going to be like, oh my God, I got like one of those guys. What is this team I've put together? Well, that's bad planning. You plan so hard to get particular players that you didn't have a good enough plan to get a good team together. You can't draft that way. You have to draft a little bit more smartly. So do it that way. When's the draft that I'm in? That's a week from Sunday.
Well, 2 drafts you're in, Badshaw.
He's right. He's in the Boy Green leagues as well.
So I'll give you both here. So first off, you do have the Manchild Show Digital League. That is Sunday, September 6th at 6 o'clock. That's the one with the championship belt behind Lurch, the cold hard cash, all of it. Again, mark your calendars appropriately. That is coming up Sunday, September 6th at 6 o'clock. So not this upcoming weekend, the following weekend, the weekend of Labor Day weekend. So take that in. And then, yes, you also have the Coffee Club League. That's the next day, Monday, September 7th at 6 o'clock. So thankfully, none of these leagues are on the same day, thank God, which I could only imagine if I had to do that. But yes, I'm in, I said it, I'm in a good cajillion league. So next weekend, Badshaw, for you, at least for leagues connected with us.
Another question from Danger. Danger, very active today. Thanks for all the comments,
Love
Danger.
it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, fellas. One final note. Thoughts on Lamar's fantasy year? Kyle Hamilton said he looks faster. I think one of the things we found out, Boy Green, is that apparently Lamar was banged up last year. Sometimes you don't hear about this stuff until after the fact.
We heard about it because he missed games.
Right. He's talking about it a little bit in training camp this year, how he wasn't running on purpose, essentially, because of some of the injuries that he was dealing with before he actually went down with an injury. So, yeah, give your thoughts on Lamar.
It's about belief. I mean, Declan Doyle's coming over from Chicago. He's the new offensive mind. He's some young whiz kid is how folks describe him in the league. So it depends how much stock you put in him. Obviously, he comes, you see Ben Johnson, branches off the tree of Ben Johnson are very intriguing. It's like branches off the tree of Sean McVay. So Lamar's supremely talented. He's a 2-time NFL MVP, should have been a 3-time NFL MVP. Sorry, Bills fans. He should have won 3 of those, but he won 2, and those are very nice. Him getting back to the ground game unlocks everything from a fantasy football perspective. So he's really talented. Zay Flowers just got the bag. Now Rashawn Bateman has his own legal situation. We'll see sort of where that manifests itself. They lose likely. They invest in Mark Andrews. Can he be healthy? Can he be a younger version of himself that we've seen in some time? But yeah, I'm and Derrick Henry, obviously, king me. I'm very fired up for Lamar Jackson this year. Same thing on shares. We'll see in terms of draft stock. You can mock draft all you want, and then you get in a draft, you're like, who are these animals? And ADP sometimes gets thrown out the window, and people do crazy stuff in home leagues. But yeah, I'm very interested in Lamar Jackson. Who wouldn't be?
Batcha asking, what do we think about the Watson over Sanders decision? You want to take that one first?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm just going to boil it down to this. I know that there is a term out there in the universe called sunk cost fallacy, and that once you invest in something, like it's too late. The Browns can't get their first round picks back. Sorry, they're not Sonny Weaver Jr. They can't get their first round picks back.
Mm-hmm.
They can't get the money back. It's sort of invested, but even though that's a term, that doesn't mean people follow through with it. They're like, man, we gave up 3 first-round picks for this guy. We gave him $200 million. Like, we want to see what he is. And I also think it's easier. I don't know. It's just a way of the world. It's easier to go from a veteran to a youngster than the other way around. When you bypass the veteran for the youngster, it's very difficult to go back to that veteran and put that toothpaste back in the tube. I think it's an easier sell. Deshaun Watson is healthy, and that's what Cleveland is saying after all the Achilles injuries and everything else, that he's healthy. We've invested all this stuff in him. You be the guy, and if he sucks, we're going to yank the cord, probably cut him, because I don't foresee how he'd just be a backup. You probably dump him, cut ties, and move over to Shedeur at some point this season if things go nuclear for Watson. By the way, that's a very high likelihood that it will go nuclear. But I don't blame Todd Monken, man. I would go veteran to youngster, or if I went Shedeur, then I would have just cut Deshaun Watson during this period of time and just completely ripped the Band-Aid off. But he's trying to win games. He believes Deshaun Watson gives him that best chance. I think it's better to start with the veteran than go to the youngster. So I think that's what they're doing. I still think it's going to be a disaster, but I at least understand the thought process of what they were trying to do at least.
I get what you're saying. I'm going to go somewhat oppo with you here.
Sure, feel free. Yeah,
and just say this,
okay.
Here's the problem with all of that. Nothing wrong with anything that you said. I agree with everything that you said, except for this big elephant in the room.
Sure.
Fans hate him.
Yes,
hate
very much so.
With a capital H, capital A, capital T, capital E. Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. They can't stand him. They want him out of there. They are done. The Denver Broncos had Russell Wilson and a ton of money owed, to a guy who had done nothing wrong for the most part, at least not away from the field or anything weird.
No, nothing. Okay? Yeah.
His skill set was starting to erode. But, and they said, we'll eat, what was it, $90 million or whatever it was?
Yeah, let me see what Russell
ever so far in the history. I don't know if we'll probably topple it in another year or two.
I'm sure we will.
At the time was the biggest, take on this cap hit for the next, was it like 3 or 4 seasons? All right, Russell Wilson. Okay. And how's Sean Payton made out? I think he's made out okay. He's built that. They built them into
$85 million. That is the largest single player dead cap money charge in
for other teams, and just get out of the building so that we can move forward. The Browns are among the worst organizations in football for these kinds of reasons. They had every chance to cut bait with this guy like 3 times. When he blew out his Achilles last year, they should have just ended it then and just moved on. Get past it. What? Because just 1 more year left on his contract, you're going to try to somehow get some value out of all that money you paid? Here's the problem with Todd Monken saying yes to this. While the veteran thing and all the things you said are right, the problem is the fans hate him. Okay. He hasn't done anything to say he's going to, has shown nothing to prove that in any way he's going to be like great, that they're going to turn into a playoff team. So just turn the page. Monken is literally putting a target on his own head, by taking Watson and giving him that job. Regardless of how poor Shedeur might even play, he's putting a target on his head because he's siding with Watson over the fans, which is a dangerous thing to do for a rookie coach getting his first opportunity at his age, too. At his age. That guy may never get a chance to be a head coach again. And the first move he's going to do is align himself with a villain. That's not a good idea, Paul. Go ahead.
Well, let me ask you this. Did he make the decision?
I don't know.
Or was
That's
it the ownership?
question. But the
Because
word out
now
there,
he's taking the bullets.
But word out there is it is his decision. And if it's not, okay, and it's quite possible, you might be right. It could be someone over his head pushing that button and saying, we need to do this. You want to know what I would do if I were Todd Monken then? If it's really their decision, yes, I would say, well, then you hired the wrong guy. Okay. And I'd stand on the moral high ground. Because he's
Todd Monken's in his 60s. This was his first NFL opportunity to be a head coach. He may never get a chance again.
For accepting it if it was pushed down to him. He's setting himself up for failure.
He has no choice.
It's going to go bad. You just said it. I believe it too. It's going to go bad.
Probably.
Why would you ever do something that you know is going to go bad before it even starts? That's the worst.
Has your boss ever told you to do something that you knew wasn't right, but you're like, well, you're my boss? Because I'll tell you, I'm not going to say the situation. A boss told me to do something. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm going to catch a lot of heat for this. And the boss said, do it. And I'm like, well, okay. And I did it. And I caught a lot of heat. And my reputation hit for the thing I had to do. But I couldn't tell them, hey, my boss asked me to do this, because then I'm throwing him under the bus. So I had to just eat it. Sometimes it happens in life.
Yeah, well, it's not always the best decision to say, yes, boss, I'll do it. In all honesty, I understand it might cost you a job. It might cost you money,
Sure.
But if that's the way that your boss treats you, you probably shouldn't be working for that boss. You should find somebody who respects you more than that, I don't know. Listen, it's never hard to walk away from a situation like that. I get it. But this one is absolutely bizarre to me. If Watson were like playing lights out in the preseason and like he just looks so good and like, maybe, I don't know, like still don't think so, but maybe like this much of me would say, right, maybe, but he hasn't. He's played.
But Shadur hasn't taken it either. It's not like Shadur's been walking on water. That would have made the decision a little bit more difficult. He didn't.
But Shadur's a second-year player, and
well, that's who's competing against.
That's who's in the room. And he knew he had. Those dopes drafted 2 quarterbacks.
Well, that was stupid.
Look like they're going to be a colossal failure.
To use Joe Bartel's word, that was stupid. And Dylan Gabriel got taken 2 rounds ahead of Shadur Sanders, and he was so bad that he didn't even factor into this competition with these 2 terrible quarterbacks.
Oh God, it's for lack of a better way of saying it, it's the Browns browning, right? You ever heard of the Jets jetting?
Yeah, Chargers chargering. I know, I've heard.
Yeah. It's the Browns browning here. I mean,
probably
that's just bad. Oh, I really feel for Todd Monken. And if he was squeezed to do this, I feel even worse for him. But I feel for him either way. He's just screwed, man. I don't know. How do you say no to an NFL head coaching job? I guess you can't.
No, he clearly, because he was going to have your Giants job. He had the OC job. Oh, my buddy Harbaugh. Apparently and allegedly, one of the reasons he lost his job is because he said, I'm not getting rid of Monken. Monken's my guy. And they went, okay, then it's you at the door. And he went, all right, fine. Monken's my guy. So some people make that valiant jump.
There you go.
He said, hey, buddy, Giants OC job. Your desk is waiting for you. And he's walking over. He's like, ooh, a head coaching job. I'm never going to get the shot again. And yeah, sure, it's a crappy job, but like, I'm never going to get this job again. I'm taking it.
Munkin's not, right? He's not John Harbaugh, all right? John Harbaugh was not in a position 18 years, a Super Bowl under his belt, to be able to do that, hold that high moral ground, as we were just talking about, and know that I'm going to be fine.
No matter what. Right? It's more easier for him.
Right. It is easier. But I still in my heart of hearts, even knowing everything I know about Monken, his age, the traverses of his career, his chance, I still think sometimes you have to say no to a job if you know it's going to be a colossal failure, because you are going to be associated with that colossal failure, and you may never get another swing at the piñata. I don't know, man. I think
you may never get a swing. Like, if he says no to that job, maybe he never gets a head coaching offer ever again, and he lives in the temple of regret. Like, damn, like, sure, was that great? No, but I'm not John Harbaugh. I'm never going to get these offers on a year-to-year basis waiting at my door. So
yeah, but I wonder how much he'd be living in the temple of regret if he didn't take it, someone else took it, and this was upon them, and it turned into a colossal failure that we all think it's going to be.
Or the other side.
And you're just sitting there going, thank God I didn't do that, right?
What if someone takes it and they blow it up and they win Super Bowls, and you're like, oh my God, I passed on that?
Well, the brand, you got to know the organization. I mean, you have to put that on the table. You have to, that has to go in the blender when you're making a decision. The only thing that goes in the blender can't just be it's a head coaching job. Like I understand the gravity of that and the money. Maybe Munkin said, I don't care. I'm taking the money. You know, I mean, regardless, they're gonna pay him. I'm gonna get at least a 3-year contract, and I'm gonna make
100%.
Whatever
Guaranteed.
it is. You know, I don't know how much money he's getting paid, but crazy money, crazy millions of dollars.
Glory of being one of
family's
32.
good. I'm 60. After this, if I want, I could just retire. Maybe that's
exactly.
Maybe. But if
I don't blame him.
If the guy really wants to win, if he wants to, if he wants to keep the job for 5+ years, he took the wrong job, man. He took the wrong job. This thing is gonna go south so fast.
But if Harbaugh still, so let's say Munkin, gets fired in 2 years or 1 year or whatever. Harbaugh's waiting on the other side of the rainbow. He's not going to think any less of Todd Munkin for taking this Browns job. That OC job or made-up quarterback special assistant. The NFL's a brotherhood. It's a fraternity. Harbaugh's like, as long as I keep having a job, you have a job for life, Todd Munkin. He's like, sweet. When you have that kind of security blanket, you can take risks with jobs because you know that you have that other job waiting at the end of the rainbow.
I wonder if other teams in the league, though, would respect Munkin for either not taking it or walking away because of the situation, and just saying and just going public and saying, I got forced to do this and this is not what I want to do. And that's not the way I want to run my football team. I'm out of here. And then some other team goes, hey, yeah, man, stand up guy, man. I ever get an opportunity, I might give that guy a swing. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. You might be right. Might be his only chance, his last chance. That's it. It's hard to turn down the money. Everything you said's right. I still think this is just a colossal disaster.
Probably going to be
way that Watson is going to play well. I just don't see it at all.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't. And those fans booing him at home. The guy is literally going to get booed out of the building every time he gets under center.
Well, it didn't help. I don't think it was quite. Oh my God, what was his name? Was it Evan Neal who did this? Who said, "Hey, shut up, people flipping your burgers and fries." Going after the fans was a poor choice. Deshaun Watson saying, "Hey, I know why you're booing me. It ain't because I'm throwing a football around." That, taking a shot at the fans and saying, I remember when you booed me when I blew out my Achilles or cheered when I blew out my Achilles. Hey, it is what it is. He's pretty deep in there. We'll see what happens.
And think of the timing of all that. So, the decision's getting close to being made. And that's the time Watson, this is the judgment of Watson over and over again. He feels before this decision's made, before he's named, before he gets anything, that he's going to go public now and criticize the fans. And then Munkin has to make the decision on the heels of that.
That was predetermined. They were going to be making that decision after that. Right. Yeah.
And he's tried to walk it back already a couple times. Forget it.
Yeah, he apologized to the fans the next day.
Out of the barn, baby. Forget it.
No, I agree.
Out. Good grief.
And by the way, I don't think he's wrong. I think he has sucked at playing football, and there's been a lot of questionable things off the field. Yes. So, I'm sure they're not proud of him. And he stinks at football. We're like, hey, man, if you're going to, be accused of all this stuff, at least throw a couple of touchdown passes. So, that's, it's difficult.
Boy. Wonder what Dabo Sweeney is thinking. Dabo Sweeney is thinking.
Yeah. Come on. Don Munson would be disappointed. Come on.
Because Dabo loved him in college. And Dabo
he made that quote after the first round. If you pass on him, you're passing on Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan of football.
And it looked pretty good at first. Old Dabo looked pretty good because Deshaun Watson was considered the next Patrick Mahomes. But when he was in Patrick Mahomes' draft class, everyone thought he was the better quarterback when we're seeing him in the league for the first couple of years. So Dabo looked like a prophet. And then, of course, everything else happened.
He was trending up and then a cliff. And then he just fell off a cliff. And
yes.
I like comeback stories and all that kind of, but this guy's, he's not getting, he's going to be at the bottom of that cliff right to the end of this thing.
Probably.
He was smart to get all that money guaranteed financially. The guy shouldn't have a problem for the rest of his life, but
nope.
I don't think there are going to be too many people around, other than his close friends, that are going to like him all that much. Just, I don't know, man. He's made himself eminently unlikable, and then just continues to make it worse every time he says something about it. Just, what he should just do is just go play. Just go play and say nothing, head to the grindstone, ignore the booing, just blinders. I'm here to do the very best job that I can, yada, yada. That's the only way you can answer it, but I still don't think he has the answers on the football field anyway, so I don't think it's going to matter. But that would be the way to handle it, not, let me go to the podium and talk about these idiots who cheered me when I blew out my Achilles. Oh, Lordy. That's not the way to get this thing going in the right direction. That's
probably not.
That's going to make it far worse. You've just given all those people more ammunition is what you've done. Okay, any of other final thoughts here? Fantasy football, everybody get pumped, man. This is a weekend of drafts. I know some of our drafts are not till next weekend, although we do have a couple this weekend. But
Yes.
a lot of people that play fantasy football are drafting this weekend. Really, it's the next 2 weekends that are the 2 big weekends. Give some final thoughts on that, PG.
Yeah. 2 things. Fantasy football this weekend. So good luck to myself in the draft, and screw everybody else that I'm going up against. So point blank, and then also screw your Giants, who we're playing tonight in a couple of hours. So for the old Snoopy Bowl that John Schmelk does not like to call it that anymore, but the old Snoopy Bowl preseason finale, and the next game that both of our teams play is for real. Dallas Cowboys and Sunday Night Football over there, and Tennessee Titans for me in Nashville, which I can't wait to fly over to. It's crazy that it's right around the corner. I can't wait.
Okay. Well, always good to visit with Joe Bartel. Again, we'll continue to do that every Friday at 3:15, folks, as a live show. So you can get in the comments just like a lot of people did today. Seek that fantasy advice, start sits, trade advice, all that kind of stuff. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You see the link right there, youtube.com/MC Show Digital. We'd love for you to become part of our growing family. Man, we'll be back live with you again on Monday, as usual, 3 o'clock. Everybody have a great draft weekend. We'll see you then. Take care, everybody. Peace out.